Do you agree with the figures that he's churned out?
Well, first of all, let me start by thanking Mr. Okoroma, who is trying to be clever about half, bringing up a jaundiced argument that does not hold water anywhere. I am happy you have already asked him the questions. These votes were counted in the glare of everybody. And like you rightly said, Ihedua ran, Ihedua 2, Arabuma, ran, and so on and so forth. And having counted all these people's scores, Okoroma is now telling us that the excess vote should be subtracted from Ihedua.
Was there excess vote?
Well, that's what he has to tell us.
But the question, were there
There were no excess votes.
No, but Mr. Agukwe, do you agree with the figures that he's reeled out?
Yeah, sure.
He says 1,007 people.
Exactly.
Valid votes.
Exactly.
Their votes were validated.
That's correct.
1,067 were accredited. And then your candidate won.
1,068.
1,068, beg your pardon.
Yes.
And then your candidate won by how many votes, did you say?
About 10 votes or so. About 10.
About 10 votes from the runner-up, if I remember.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's alleged manipulation.
No, what he's saying actually is that, you see, because of the desperation, trying to bring something out of nothing. Now, having sorted out the votes of whatever votes one scored, of course, they have to put them out in baskets. Okay? Now, what Okoroma is telling the world or people to believe is that because they started those who scored 0, those who scored 10, those who scored 40, and so on until it gets to Arabame. So that is where you have to stop. And if there's any problem with the counting, then you have to take it to the person who is the last to be counted, or who eventually won the election. And I was asking, this argument came up, and I was asking them, I said, is it because those who conducted the election chose to count from here? And because they chose to count from here...
In what order was it counted? Was it counted in alphabetical order?
First of all, all the ballot papers were brought together and sorted. Having sorted out, they placed one of them on the table and started counting. So you would have, I wanted the Okoroma to say maybe there was light out, or light off, and more ballot papers were brought in. Whatever you saw came out, came from that particular pool of basket.
What I meant
where
to
all
ask,
these things were taken from.
What I meant to ask you is, in what order were the names announced? Was it done in alphabetical order, or was it done randomly? They just figured that we would go with the big ones.
Randomly, I think from those who scored 0, a lot of people scored 0. Of course, when this contest started, a lot of people were just there. Some thought they were going to be anointed from Abuja. Some thought they were going to anointed, somewhere. They were not campaigning.
So it was done randomly?
It was done randomly, So we're not asking Okoroma. Now, like you have to ask him, when these things were sorted out and counted 1, 2, was there a time the lights went off? So as to say, I thought he would have said they brought in new ballot papers. He didn't say that. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, you do.
So what he's just trying to say is to bring a logic whereby, because it was started from those who scored 0 to the person who scored last, whose own was announced last. So when you get to the person, his candidate, you stop. And they calculate any other figure that come out there, you might not see it from the person who eventually won. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
How does that work?
No. For instance, it started from those who there are 28 aspirants. Now you start from number 1, maybe those who scored 0, those who scored 1, and so on. And they go to Arabame, so you stop. Any other thing, when you now counted the Mecca, he has won, and eventually Mecca have won. The argument now is that if there was any vote that is over, you have to minus it from America here the household.
Well,
I don't know if I make sense to you.
The question will be, here we are, it's a very dicey situation because
somehow
you must admit that 10 votes, to win by 10 votes is a rather slim margin.
Yeah, sure.
Especially when you're
somehow was a keenly contested vote.
When your opponent has, just very close to your own amount of votes as well.
Yes.
And since you say that this was counted randomly, and he alleges that if you add up all the total number of votes, it will be way more than the number of validated votes. Did that also come across to you?
In fact, I also tried to do an analogy of that arrangement.
Yes.
Because if you check what was recorded, was 100 and accredited was 1,068. You know what I'm saying? 1,068. Now, if you even put all these votes we're talking about, it's not more than that. They are still within the accredited number of voters. Okay? I don't know. Maybe those who did that calculation will have to explain, because in these things you have to explain from where, so that you'll be able to say something that is convincing and can be proved. So they have to check, because even the whole vote we are talking about is not outside what was accredited. So if there's a mistake
it's
somewhere,
not outside what was accredited,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it was outside what was validated.
yeah, when they talked about those who actually voted, 1,068 were accredited to vote, and about 1,006 were actually voted. You understand what I'm saying? So they have to check whether there was a mistake. But what I'm trying to say, all these votes were in a central basket, from where everybody's own was sorted out. By having sorted out the votes, you now begin to count the figures each candidate aspirant scored. So having counted it, the allegation of overvoting that is coming from Okrona is now that if you minus, there is some excess votes. And that excess votes, assuming you now say, remove the excess votes, because you counted around the first. So you will include all his votes while you go to a particular candidate and remove the excess votes from his own. Well, that is exactly what he's trying to tell
A
you.
lot of people will say that normally, usually when results are announced or when counting is done, just to ensure that the process is fair, they usually go in alphabetical order.
That's correct.
Just to be sure. But you say that in this...
No, it wasn't, but because if it was done alphabetical order,
Yes.
even though it's not the last, cannot be the last person.
Exactly. So
Because we were asking some people,
yes.
assuming you started from the highest, the person that scored had the highest number of votes,
Yes.
and get to those who
But the
scored
question is,
zero.
how would you know that? Because if we're counting 320 ballots and we're counting, just as an example, I'm not saying that's what it's called. If you're counting 300, or you're looking at a basket full of paper that has 320 papers and one has 310 papers, they will look almost exactly the same. So in that particular instance, it will be difficult to say we're starting from those who have the highest, or we're starting from those who have the smallest, to proceed to those who have the highest. When you get to those two baskets, it becomes a little contentious in terms of which one now has the highest.
Now, assuming there's a problem of overvoting, are you now going to suggest that it be removed from North's votes?
But the process, just a moment,
What we would have done is to now begin to manipulate, to minus such votes randomly.
Okay. Now,
You understand what I'm saying? Maybe from across board. You cannot say one person will be punished because there was overvoting, or if you choose to put it that way. You will now remove all those votes from your vote.
Mr. Abuko,
I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Just a moment, though. How would you say the process, much as possible, they try to be transparent? We've seen
It was very, very transparent. It was one of the best.
We've seen cases where
One of the best.
We've seen cases where journalists are there. It's been monitored. In fact, it's being carried live intermittently,
Of course.
and then before you know what's happening, you begin to get a difference in figures. For instance, in Lagos, all of a sudden, just when counting was about to begin, they were then told that, sorry, the number of delegates that showed up were far different from the number of delegates that they had announced initially. So situations like that,
Never.
they do arise.
It didn't arise in
It did not arise.
We don't have such a name.
But the question is, aside the show of transparency, would you say that discrepancy or that not counting things alphabetically or not counting the votes alphabetically gave room for some slight manipulation?
Well, you see, I'm not here to begin to now direct how it should be done, because this deed is already done. All what we're trying to do is to try to establish some agreeable facts of the issue. And the issue, like I said, is simple. It was done in the glare of everybody. The votes were openly counted. So if there was any incident of overvoting, if you choose to use that word, and you now decided that you remove those figures, are you going to remove it for one candidate's votes?
Would you suggest that the process?
You understand what I'm saying?
Would you suggest that the process be redone then? Because if you
there is no time,
just a moment,
and I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm coming. You see, there were a lot of things that came up in this election. Even this Okroma is talking. Okroma and his boss, I don't know, were not even major contenders in that election. When they started bringing issues of oath taking and administering oath on people and things like that, people started running for their lives. These were issues that came out, that played out.
They were not contentious.
And people
when you say
started wondering what magic did Senator Arone do to score that number of votes.
You said they're
It
not
has
major
become a major
contenders.
issue in
Did
right
you
now.
say they were not major contenders?
Yeah, sure. Meanwhile, not only that, they also took these delegates to court.
They took delegates to court
Took these delegates to court for 24 hours.
before
That's primary.
Okay.
Those delegates were not delegates.
Can you just hold on for a second here? Hold on for a second. I will go to Okroma to answer to this you talked about.
You saw
He said something-
when he said they went to court.
Is it possible, my colleague actually, is it possible that there were some errors in the counting of the votes?
In fact, that is what I'm saying, that if there were errors...
No, is it possible?
It's not human beings that did it. But in this
So
case,
even though they're counting-
I'm not seeing any error. Because the whole votes put together are still within the 168.
But it's possible that they could have been mixed up
Yes,
amongst the
that's what I am
people.
thinking.
Okay, let's go back to Okroma. Let's go to Okroma. Hello, Mr. Okroma. Mr. Okroma just said here that your principal took the delegates to court 24 hours before the primaries, and that may have affected his results in the elections. Is that true?
Took the delegates to court.
Yes?
What did you write?
That's what he said.
Well, he never took the delegates to court. But let me tell you, my brother, if you go to Imo State, Senator Ifeanyi Araruna has the strongest political group, Destiny Organization. The Imo people voted for him in 2007. That mandate was truncated. They will repeat it several times over and over again whenever there's an election. I don't want us to argue outside the facts. There are fundamental facts that have been established. One, Mr. Abuko is not even conversant with the figures from the administration. I want us to do the mathematics. 1,006 people voted. At the end of the day, you realize 1,027 votes. 21 votes came in strangely. That should be explained. Now, from number 1 to number 27, scored 681. This is simple mathematics. I don't want to engage in polemics of the verbose. Let us go to figures. 681 votes were realized. After the end of that is from number 1 to 27, got 681. If you deduct 681 from 1,006 valid votes, what you realize is 325. That is what you realize. Now, they counted from the least person to Ararume, who had 336. The script will get their scores, then get the hand they want first, and know what to add to his own to make him beat the strongest aspirant. Senator Ifeanyi.
Wait, no, hold on, just hold on. Mr. Okroma, hold on here. You said 127 votes total.
Listen, let us take this thing.
Hold on. Mr. Okroma, hold on. 1,006 voted, right?
Will you allow me to take you through the whole figures? Because I also have this first.
Okay, go ahead.
I have it, please. I have it. If you want, I
now,
can to you.
take your pen. 1,054 delegates were accredited. Did you get that?
Yes.
At the end of voting, only 1,017 actually voted. 47 were not there. 1,017 people voted. Now, 11 votes were void. If you deduct 11 from 1,017, what you get is 1,006. So the total valid votes was 1,006. 28 aspirants contested. Now they started from the least person to Senator Radume. If you complete what aspirant number 1 to 27 scored, what you will get is 681. Please go along with me as I do this arithmetic. Now 681. If you deduct 681 from 1,006 valid votes, what you get is 325 votes. At the end of the day, they announced a mechanism that is called 346. If you deduct 325 from 346, you have 4 votes, strange votes that came into computation. Fact number 1, they are overvoting, amounting to 21 votes. Now, if you counted 1 to 27, it is very clear where the overvoting, who benefited, or who the beneficiary of the overvoting is, or was. And
what he's saying, just make Mr.
Hold on. Please go ahead.
Now, I don't want to start engaging in polemics.